Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome everybody to the first of two episodes of the Juice Box this week. It's PLE/pay-per-view prediction weekend. We have a huge double pay-per-view weekend here. We've got Double or Nothing and King and Queen of the Ring, AEW and WWE respectively. Huge Memorial Day weekend to those in the States. And if you're a wrestling fan, this is the weekend for you. We've got plenty to talk about. There will be two episodes in the feed, of course. This first one being the King and Queen of the Ring prediction show. As the show is tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern, I believe, for the show emanating from Saudi Arabia, which we'll talk about some interesting news and notes about future PLEs here in a moment. I am solo this week for both prediction shows, which, not the worst thing in the world. Unfortunately, couldn't grab Eisenberg. I reached out to a few others. Couldn't really get anybody in here. It was a kind of a time crunch, so I really had no problem in just diving in, doing both of these episodes solo. But, we got Clash of the Castle coming up in a couple weeks. Plenty of shows that are going to be in and out going forward. So, plenty of opportunities for you guys to hear people other than me. But as always, let's dive into, Juicy Steen on Twitter, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can find the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, Podbean at juicysteen.podbean.com, Amazon Music, of course, Spotify as well. If you listen to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the show. That really does help the show grow. And also, this show is on YouTube. Every single episode in the RSS feed is uploaded to YouTube, so you can find every episode from the beginning, starting with the Maiden Voyage episode from January of 2023 up until this current episode, which is episode 80 of the Juice Box. Can you believe it? We have not missed 1 week of releasing an episode. There have been a few weeks, of course, where we've had multiple episodes. This past WrestleMania week, I had Mania 1, Night 1 predictions, Night 2 predictions, a Triple Threat Theater, and an episode of the SIP series with Wrestling for Sale. So maybe 4 episodes in a week. You never really know what you're going to get here in the Juice Box, but you can guarantee there will be at least one Juice Box episode in the feed each and every week, trying to keep that continuity alive and well. Hopefully, as I said, with the YouTube, though, we will eventually get some video content up there. The interns and many working pieces of the Juice Box are currently really researching, doing some internal research and information scavenging to try to figure out what we want to do in regards to video, how that's all going to play out, design, all these types of things. It's going to be a very slow process. I'm not in any rush. We're doing the show once a week and maybe a few more times a week. I get, like I said, depending on how many episodes. But in regards to video content, I'm just going to take my time. And then whenever I'm ready to have that be unveiled for a hard launch, the YouTube's already done. The interns have done quite well with the YouTube, finally overhauling that, getting all the episodes up. So now any potential video content, we will try to do that going forward at some point. So keep an eye out. But let's get into the WWE of it all this weekend. King and Queen of the Ring. There is an official hashtag, which I believe is hashtag WWE King and Queen, which has the specific emoji for the hashtag, which I really am a fan of. I'm curious if Double or Nothing has that on Sunday, but I doubt it. AEW, I believe, for a brief moment had the AEW and AEW Dynamite hashtags fitted with an emoji that if you posted it, it would show up, but I don't believe they've done that in a while. But every single PLE for WWE has had such emojis. Raw and SmackDown always have an emoji. We've had emojis specific hashtags for all the main eventers at WrestleMania this past year. So, I mean, there's plenty of different interesting social media ways to promote shows. So it's pretty interesting with each and every show. What are they going to use? My problem with the AEW hashtags is that more often than not on a Wednesday night, purely because they don't have the standard, maybe with an emoji AEW Dynamite hashtag, is that all too often there are misspelled hashtags that gain traction and end up trending instead of the actual spelling of AEW Dynamite. We've had Dynamite. We've had plenty of misspellings, and somehow they trend. People don't realize that they've tweeted it, and it's too late, so hopefully AEW can fix that. But this is the WWE show for this weekend. The King and Queen of the Ring, I'm going to get into a little bit of the card, of course, here in a moment. We'll get to the entire card, but I'm going to just go over some of the ins and outs of this past week leading up to this show. Bayley last week tweeted out that this Queen of the Ring tournament is calling for an Evolution 2. And I've been saying it for a very long time, that WWE should produce another Evolution PLE. I thought maybe this year. There's still time for that, of course, but the first one I thought was an amazing show, 2018, and their roster now is somehow even more stacked with women's wrestlers. Of course, they could get wrestlers from TNA and other independent companies as well, potentially to work an Evolution 2. So I'd say it's definitely in the cards, especially with someone of the caliber of Bayley posting about it. It's clear that, maybe there's some info there, like, hey, maybe we can get this thing going and what have you. But additionally, from SmackDown last week, Cody Rhodes, as they were talking in Jacksonville, it was actually the 32nd anniversary to the day of Wrestle War 92, which had the greatest War Games match of all time, Sting's Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance. Really cool to hear Cody doing that as the true student of the game that he is. But the fact that it all lined up, 32 years to the day, same building, same town, of course, one of the best WCW matches in history. It's just really cool, and that's something I do, is, this day, this week in history, big fan of that, so that was cool to see him mention it. Of course, we'll talk about this, but it's, Jey Uso did not end up defeating Gunther, and Gunther is in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. And, there was a question out there that if, is Jey Uso, as this solo run, main event Jey Uso, if he never wins a singles title, would you consider it to be a failure? And I said no. I think that he's made a huge name for himself without winning that singles title. And even if he never wins one, he'll be just as popular. He's clearly one of the most over guys in the company. And if he never wins a singles title, I don't think that'll change that at all. I mean, I people have said, and I've kind of agreed, the chase for a title sometimes is even more riveting, more exciting for a wrestler than actually getting the belt. We'll talk about that tomorrow with the AEW prediction show, talking about Swerve Strickland and how it seems like Swerve was better off chasing for the title or challenging Hangman, and now he's champion and it's been kind of just there. I've been a fan of what he's been doing, but you can't help but think that it was more exciting on the way up. So let's get into it now. I do believe we're going to be out of the random stuff before we get into the show. So Let's do it. Let's get into King and Queen of the Ring. We finally are getting things situated. The card is almost there. Let's go with what happened on Raw this past week. Of course, we'd have the advance of Gunther and Lyra Valkyria to the finals of King and Queen of the Ring, respectively. Chad Gable defeated Sami Zayn, and we've got a little bit of the "You Suck" chants with his theme music. I think we're really becoming closer and closer to the Creed brothers, Chad Gable, Team Gable of it all. Braun Breaker destroyed somebody that local talent, and it seems as if, I don't know if he'll get a suspension or go to SmackDown because of all this chaos, but I think I like Braun Breaker being just this guy that spears people. I mean, he speared people in the backstage. He destroyed, what was his name? Kale Dixon. Kale. What are we doing here? With a spear. And I likened it to Canyon doing the Canyon Cutter backstage all the time in WCW to try to get the attention of DDP. Give me Braun Breaker spearing people into oblivion every single time randomly backstage. I am up for it. Awesome Truth defended their tag titles successfully against the Judgment Day. And pretty much, that was it. We had a number one contenders match as well for the women's tag titles. And Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler won that. So they will get a title shot in the future as well. But as we get to the actual card, as we look at the actual card, we, of course, at the time of this recording, we do not have the information on who Gunther or Lyra will face in the finals, but I will make my predictions in regards to that. But let's start off. Women's World Title. Liv Morgan on her Liv Morgan Revenge Tour, taking on Becky Lynch for the Women's World Title. I have been digging the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. It sucks that Rhea Ripley had to be injured and not be a part of this, although I have stated, I think she is better off going away for a bit. Heal up. The fans are going to love her when she comes back. I'm not even sure she'll be in the Judgment Day when she comes back, based on the Liv Morgan appearing, in Finn Balor's car, potentially holding and possessing the purple handkerchief of Dom Mysterio. I think she's kind of weaseling her way, as it were, into potentially the Judgment Day or just the minds of the Judgment Day. But I don't think Rhea's going to like that very much once she comes back. So depending on where that stands, I have a tough time thinking Liv is going to win this match. But honestly, I'm going to pick Liv Morgan to win this match. I think Liv Morgan's going to win the world title. I believe that, and the other part of this is the King and Queen of the Ring winners, the tournament winners. It was announced earlier this week, which is very late to the game, a couple of days before the actual show, that the winners of both tournaments will receive a championship shot. I'm not sure if it will be a world title shot, if it's just a title shot. I would hope it's a world title shot, but that almost makes it seem too close to Money in the Bank for them to really embrace that. So I'm not actually sure what they'll do. But if it were me, and it is me, I'm going to say Liv Morgan wins this match, and whoever, wins the Queen of the Ring would, I guess, get a shot, at her, but it very well could be for the WWE Women's Champion. depending. So we shall see. I just don't know, with the world titles being so split like that, I just, you never know where they're going to go. And with the fact that we don't know where, the fact that we don't know when Rhea Ripley's coming back kind of is the issue for me in predicting this, purely because it's like, well, is she going to come back at a certain point for SummerSlam, say, or is she going to come back for this June show, Clash of the Castle, or maybe later in the year? Is she not ready to come back? Like, what? So that kind of factors in, because ideally I'd have Liv Morgan be the champion once Rhea comes back. So if we want to do that, I say Liv Morgan wins. Whoever wins the Queen of the Ring maybe goes against Bayley instead. Because you would think, that winner is going to win the title from whoever. So I don't know. Maybe not on the men's side, because we'll get there. But I'm going to pick Liv Morgan to win this women's world title. So that is my not as bold prediction. Let's go to the next title match. There's only 5 matches on this show. I think that's probably going to be it, but I'm kind of cool with that. After this match, though, we will discuss... actually, when we get to the Cody-Logan Paul match, we'll discuss some insane announcement that happened this past Thursday involving SummerSlam 2026. That's right, in 2 years. But Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, Bronson Reed triple threat match for the WWE Intercontinental title. This has been building for a while, of course. Sami Zayn off of his huge victory at WrestleMania against Gunther, dethroning the ring general at 666 days as champion, the greatest champion of all time. Sami Zayn becoming a 4-time Intercontinental champion. Defending against Chad Gable, who has really leaned into this dick persona, very Kurt Angle heel, degrading the Alpha Academy as he rises through the ranks, getting the "You Suck" chants, as I said, with his theme song recently. And it seems that Otis might be fed up to the extent where he could cost Chad Gable in this match. And you also have to think, Bronson Reed is in this match. He's a wild card. He just wants to beat people up and win this title. I wouldn't be shocked if Bronson Reed walked out of here as champion, but I have a feeling that Otis will, I don't know if it'll seem inadvertent or if it'll be deliberate, but I do think Otis will end up costing Chad Gable the match in some way, getting out of the Alpha Academy, but we'll probably get, him being beat down by Gable and the Creeds, assuming that's what's going to happen. And then we move forward with, I don't know, maybe a 6-man with those guys. I don't know who Otis recruits. Who knows? But in regards to this title match, I think Sammy retains. I think it'd be crazy for Sammy to lose a month and a half after, beating Gunther, after Gunther had not lost in 666 days. I mean, it's just like the streak, If Brock Lesnar beats the streak of Undertaker, is he going to lose his next match? If he wins a world title, is he going to lose it immediately? You got to play it safe, and I just don't think Sami Zayn losing makes sense. So I think Otis costs Chad Gable. It's triple threat rules, so anything can happen. So Sami Zayn, I think, will retain the title. Let's get to Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. Undisputed WWE title on the line only, not the United States title. I truly think, that no matter what happens in this match, I'm sure it's going to be great. And dare I say that Logan Paul is to the Saudi Arabia shows, is what, he is to the Saudi Arabia shows what Shawn Michaels is to WrestleMania, which is unbelievable performer, knocks it out of the park every single time. He had an amazing match with Roman at Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, he has really done quite a bit in that regard. So, you know, why not? Why not have another great match in this particular type of event? You know Logan's not going to win, you know, especially because his title's not on the line. So him losing doesn't really cost anything. I will say this. If there's something intriguing about this match, it will be the potential involvement of Uncle Howdy, quote unquote, the Wyatt Six, whatever that ends up being. If that does end up being something, I think that it would happen here. I think it would involve Cody and his, you know, future matches, whether that's, you know, Clash at the Castle in June, Money in the Bank in July, or SummerSlam potentially, which is in Cleveland. Logan Paul, maybe that's something. Maybe LA Knight costs him the match here. But, you know, because then you get a Logan Paul, LA Knight, Cleveland match at SummerSlam for the U.S. title. I know that Logan Paul is a Cleveland guy and everything, but I don't think he would really be revered as a face there. I just think he would want to be revered, and it ends up turning on him in a big bad way. So I think Cody Rhodes will ultimately retain this, but look out for a potential LA Knight interference on behalf of Cody, or the appearance / debut of the Uncle Howdy thing. Whatever, you know, whatever's going on with all that, I think could show up in this particular match or after this match to set up something with Cody going forward. But ultimately, and we'll get there, Cody could have some interesting plans come SummerSlam. So that is where I want to discuss this next tidbit. But so the championship opportunity, though, that I did say, that is actually happening at SummerSlam. So whoever wins the King and Queen of the Ring get the match at SummerSlam, which I think is pretty intriguing. I think it's the right. I think it's the right call. They did that before. You know, they did that in '95. Well, no, they did it in '94 with Owen. You know, Owen, who went against Brett at SummerSlam '94. '95, of course, was King Mabel, and he wrestled Diesel at SummerSlam '95, which was the first pay-per-view in Pittsburgh, which is pretty interesting. But getting back to SummerSlam, it was announced SummerSlam 2026 will take place in Minneapolis, Minnesota, for not one, but 2 nights. The first ever 2-night SummerSlam ever. And I have mixed feelings on it. I am thrilled that it's happening for the sheer fact of, you know, I love watching wrestling. I think wrestling's fantastic. I could always welcome more wrestling, especially because at this moment in 2024, I would say I probably won't go to that SummerSlam. It's 2 nights. It's Minnesota. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that appealing to me, honestly. And the 2 nights really throws me off because for WrestleMania this past year, I did do both nights, but I knew that both nights would be special, and they were. And with it being WrestleMania 40 and it like a solid number, you kind of knew something special was going to take place. So I was more than happy to shell out for both nights. And, knowing that Mania 41, 42, 43, you had potentials, and of course it's confirmed now, Vegas next year. I think London could be in play soon. Nashville could be in play potentially for 43, 44, or 45. Atlanta, I know, is a potential spot as well. So some of these spots that are potential landing spots for WrestleMania in the future, I think are going to be even more crazy expensive to make happen as time progresses. For Philly, I had a place to stay for free. We drove out, so like it wasn't a flight, super cost of a flight or anything. So the tickets were the only thing I really spent money on. Some of these other ones are going to be nuts. So for like Vegas, I'm not sure if I'm going to do. If I even go, I think I might do just night 2, because even then that's going to be crazy expensive. So I don't know. I think it'll be awesome, but it's going to be tough. So leading into 2 nights of SummerSlam, clearly this is a make good from WrestleMania not coming to Minneapolis ever since they had this new stadium, like 2017, I think, 2018. It has been rumored almost every single year as WrestleMania kind of gets talked about for the location that, I don't know, Minneapolis might be it this year, but there's a problem, that they don't really have Ubers. They really just do taxi, and it's going to be kind of difficult to navigate all that, but we'll have to see. And they had a board meeting earlier in the year talking about an event that they had to announce, and it was going to be something to bring a lot of, people to the area and tourist stuff and all these great things. And I was like, that's it, WrestleMania, here we go. And time went on, and time went on, and time went on, and nothing happened. And then lo and behold, after Backlash on May 4th, I believe, it was announced that WrestleMania 41 would be taking place in none other than Las Vegas. So no Minneapolis there. I think that this is a make-up for that. It's sort of a make good. The 2 nights is clearly the 2 nights, and it being announced 2 years in advance. They're going to try to sell it out both nights for sure. But it being Minneapolis, it being SummerSlam, I do believe it's going to be a tougher sell than WrestleMania, obviously. But I think that's doing it so out in advance, 2 years in advance, gives you a chance, an opportunity to sell it out the way that you'd like. And them announcing like, this will be the first 2-night SummerSlam. So next year, in 2025, will be the standard 1 night. So in regards to that, I think if Minneapolis is going to get it on for 2 nights in 2026, could we see SummerSlam in London in 2025? Could we see SummerSlam in Saudi Arabia in 2025? Who knows? I think this is a test run of the 2-night event, at the same time leaving a year in advance open to potentially giving it to somewhere outside of the United States or Canada. Maybe Toronto would get it. They had it in 2019, which is really cool. But I don't know. I think it's all up in the air. I would be fascinated to see what happens. Of course, everybody on Twitter and social media was like, let's do the Royal Rumble. Let's do Survivor Series for 2 nights. Let's do it. Let this be great. And I just don't think that's a good idea. I don't subscribe to that. WrestleMania worked because it was a 7-hour show. So you could split that up for 3.5 hours over 2 nights and it'd be perfect. SummerSlam, albeit not WrestleMania, is pretty much the closest thing to WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania in the summer. It's a lot of matches. It's the biggest party of the summer. You want to make it a huge attraction. And additionally, the Royal Rumble doesn't really lend itself to 2 nights. Yeah, you have 2 Royal Rumble matches now, the men and the women. But I think it's a perfect event how it is, where you start off with a Rumble event and you end the night with a Rumble event. I don't think you need to do 2 nights of that, because the rest of the show is just a couple title matches. Like, it just doesn't build for that. It's 2-night SummerSlam. You can main event with a women's title match, a men's title match on either night, both nights, plus maybe a dream match, maybe a legend, maybe like a Hell in a Cell. You have a lot of options you can parlay with 2 nights on a WrestleMania card or a SummerSlam card. Same with Survivor Series. You're going to have a Survivor Series traditional match maybe on night 1. Night 2, you do a War Games match. I just think it's too convoluted. I don't think they would try to make that work. So SummerSlam, honestly, is the only other PLE that could make a 2-night event work, in my not-so-humble opinion. Additionally, so I think this is huge, but I am curious as the 2025 location where that could be. And WWE normally doesn't announce SummerSlam this, or honestly, any event this much ahead of time. So, pretty intriguing news. But I went off on that tangent purely because SummerSlam this year is in Cleveland, where Logan Paul is from, and of course is going to host a lot of different Cleveland athletes and celebrities, I'm sure, for that show. So him being in this match, I figured that was the best time to announce this particular news that came through late in the week, which is just a wild, out of nowhere thing. But, you know, Minneapolis, you're probably never getting WrestleMania, or at least not for the next 5 years, but you'll get the first 2-night SummerSlam. Please don't screw it up. Sell it out, or you'll never get WrestleMania. So we'll see. But friend of the show, Andrew Baydala, I'm sure he's thrilled that they get something, but I'm sure he'd be more thrilled to get WrestleMania. But you're going to have to sell out SummerSlam for sure. So back to the king and queen of the ring of it all. I do believe Cody Rhodes retains, but I would not be shocked if LA Knight costs the match for Logan Paul, and or potentially the Uncle Howdy Wyatt Six situation could be involving themselves in Cody here. So we'll see. Now let's get to the king and queen of the ring, of course. Queen of the ring. We are at Lyra Valkyria, who defeated Io Sky on Raw this past week. And she will take on either Bianca Belair or Nia Jax, who wrestle tonight on SmackDown. The match was great between Tiffany Stratton and Bianca Belair. Of course, Bianca gets the win. And Jade Cargill somehow doesn't know the rules and got disqualified against Nia Jax in under 3 minutes. I will say, though, and this is how I'm going to predict this, because this show is going to be aired before SmackDown tonight. So I'm going to say that Jade Cargill will be still pissed off that Nia Jax took a verbal shot at Jade's daughter, who was in the front row last week on SmackDown, and will take it out on Nia this week, and Nia will lose, or win the match, rather, by DQ against Bianca Belair, additionally causing that first little bit of friction between Bianca and Jade. So that would put Nia in the finals, and as much of a great story Lyra Valkyria is, I don't see her winning Queen of the Ring. I think that Nia Jax is the perfect Queen of the Ring. The King of the Ring back in the 90s, it was best suited for heels. You know, of course, Bret Hart was the first King of the Ring, but he was the most over guy in the company and ended up fighting another king, you know, that year in Jerry Lawler. So they had a kind of a built-in storyline there for that. But outside of that, 94 was Owen Hart, the King of Hearts, uber heel. 95 was King Mabel, very heelish. 96 kind of was indifferent, but it was, I guess you could say, a heel Steve Austin that turned into his greatest moment. And it just serves better being a heel. I also think of King Booker really elevating his game as a heel, as King of the Ring. So in this regard, I think Nia Jax is the perfect choice for Queen of the Ring. And she could really, really ham that up for weeks and months leading to SummerSlam, where she could cash that championship match in and have that match, who knows against, but I'm here for it for sure. And get the first cracks in the armor of Bianca and Jade, if that were to happen tonight, I think would be fascinating to watch. So Lyra Valkyria, maybe you'll pull off the mega upset, but I do believe Nia Jax will win Queen of the Ring. Let's go to the men. This is not as clear for me. Gunther defeated Jey Uso by submission. Third straight submission win in this tournament. And Gunther will face either Randy Orton or Tama Tonga. With the now knowledge that a championship opportunity is in store for SummerSlam and the winner of the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments, it really presents an interesting opportunity for WWE. If Gunther were to win, it's pretty set up. Boom, Gunther, Cody, SummerSlam. Gunther wins. Give me Gunther and Ilya at Bash in Berlin. Have them tear the house down. Or, because I don't see Tama Tonga winning, give me Randy Orton and Gunther. Give me Randy Orton winning with a RKO out of nowhere. You know that could be amazing on a guy like Gunther. It's a match I would look forward to seeing, personally, Randy Orton and Gunther. And not only seeing it, but the fact that it had never really happened before, and you get it without it having to be for a title or really sacrificing anything. It's just a tournament final. So, no one really loses anything by having that match, and, whoever loses it not really looks worse. I mean, they made it to the final for a reason. So I like that it could be Orton and Gunther. But I laid out what you got for Gunther there, but if Orton were to win, who has some history with Cody? So SummerSlam could be, if Cody remains champion by then, Orton versus Cody, WWE title. A lot of storylines could be in play there, of course, with the legacy component. Orton trying to become a 15-time world champion, which would put him ahead of Triple H finally, and only behind John Cena and Ric Flair, which would be third of all time, which would be really cool. But I don't think Orton will win that. I think he will win another world title before it's all said and done, but I don't think he will do that at SummerSlam. But stranger things have happened. I think we probably get Cody versus The Rock for the title at some point, potentially at WrestleMania next year. So who really knows what their plans are, but I think it's absolutely plausible and possible for Randy Orton or Gunther to win this thing. Of course, I didn't pick Tama Tonga, but he'll end up being the guy that wins. But I don't honestly think that'll happen. Man, it's tough to just not pick Orton here. I'd love to see a random RKO, but I just don't see Gunther losing. I don't. I'm going to pick Gunther. No matter who goes in the final, I think Gunther is the guy. Gunther, King of the Ring. Nia Jax, Queen of the Ring. I think those are your winners. Although, initially I'd thought maybe it'd be cool to see Tama Tonga getting the crown as his dad, King Haku. How cool would that be? But I just don't see that really happening. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But I still think Nia Jax is the best choice to win. I think it's a great story for Lyra to make it to the Queen of the Ring final. But I just don't really think this is the time. So, all right. That's King and Queen of the Ring tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. 10 Pacific if you're watching in the States, King and Queen of the Ring. I like that it's 2 tournament finals and a world title match, IC title match, and a women's title match. I like that it's all kind of stakes. There's definitely some stakes involved. But unfortunately, I don't know how much will actually change here. I was always a fan of the King of the Ring tournament being the entire show. And with so many PLEs, I feel like you could make a tournament in a pay-per-view work these days. But I don't know if WWE is going to try to pull that off anytime soon. So be lucky and be thankful that we're just getting at least the finals of the tournament, and the tournament's even happening at all. And they did build the stakes in there. So we get a stake, a claim for, a world title match. Or they say just a championship match at SummerSlam. Hopefully it's for a world title. I think anything else would be a little less than. But with the stakes added to it, I think it's a little bit more intrigue for the show. So that has been the Juice Box for this week, at least for the King and Queen of the Ring prediction show. Tune in tomorrow for the Double or Nothing prediction show. Also, me, myself, and Juice by myself doing the show. But I'm looking forward to that show as well. A lot of interesting stuff on it. The Memorial Day weekend slate, Saturday afternoon, Sunday night. Doesn't really get much better than that, especially without work on Monday. I hope Double or Nothing goes to 3 a.m. Doesn't bother me one bit. But we will discuss that tomorrow. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the King and Queen of the Ring prediction show here on the Juice Box. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can find the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, JuicySteen.podbean.com, Amazon Music, and of course on Spotify. And if you listen to it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, give it a rating and review. It helps the show out immensely. And check it out on YouTube. We've got all the audio on YouTube. For now, it's purely audio, but I do believe in the future you will see some video content once the interns are done frivolously working behind the scenes. I will have more information on what to expect on the YouTube video side of things. But either way, check out the pod on YouTube if you listen to pods on YouTube. And give it a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But yeah, enjoy King and Queen of the Ring tomorrow. Should be a fun little show. And then we are on our way to Scotland. Clash at the Castle, June 15th. So can't wait for that show. I think Drew McIntyre might have a pretty big spot on that show. But until then, I am Juice Springsteen. And I hope you guys enjoy the weekend of wrestling and this show next week for another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.